Great to see the faithful few here. So we're going to have a great service, and I'd like to start with a little story about my background and how I looked at the word pilgrimage and what is a pilgrimage, which is something we look forward to exploring this morning with Reverend Ned. So growing up as a Mennonite kid in a small Colorado town, I wasn't familiar with the concept of pilgrimage. When I moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico as a young adult, I encountered los penitentes. When Spanish Catholics emigrated to New Mexico in the 1600s, they brought the tradition of the Lenten pilgrimage, reenacting Jesus' walk to Golgotha and carrying the cross. And the men of this penitente brotherhood would slowly process to their morada, a windowless adobe hall in most cases, where they self-flagellate, and there was blood, I guess, involved, and the most pious man among them would carry the cross while being whipped with rawhide and cactus. Then he would be lashed to the cross and hung up in the sun all day. So a pretty tough concept of pilgrimage, isn't it? But the concept of suffering and denial has stayed with us in lots of different Lenten practices. And in today's expressions, I think a lot of, there is some spiritual value in helping focus the mind on pilgrimage and deprival in cases like that. So today, Reverend Ned shares the writings of Thomas Merton in part of his message that remind us that the inward quest is perhaps the most important pilgrimage. So I look forward to hearing more about the concept and the practice of pilgrimage in today's message with Reverend Ned. As Unitarian Universalists, we come together to worship each week to honor what is of worth, to celebrate the grace and abundance that surrounds us, and in this hour, we pause the everyday rush and flow of our lives in reverence and thanksgiving to connect with what is sacred and to remember our commitments to each other and the world. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your life's journey, whatever your name for the sacred, you are very welcome to bring your full self here. My name is Kent Martin, and I'm a member of this congregation. As part of our worship committee, I help lead worship from time to time when our pastor, the Reverend Kimberly Quinn Johnson, is away. And I'm delighted to welcome a UUCSF fan favorite back to our pulpit today, Reverend Ned Wight. I could share some of his bio, but it is as extensive as it is impressive. Suffice it to say, his life of service to our faith and humanity in general is remarkable, and we are so lucky to have him with us today again. Yes. Please take a moment to silence your phone so that we can enjoy worship free from distractions. And a good morning to our friends on Zoom. We're glad you can join us. Please do watch your mute as well. And if you do need to speak, let Carl know that you can raise your hand or unmute. And to enhance the worship experience, please hold your applause. It's hard. We burst out sometimes until the end of the service, although, I don't know. It's a silly rule. Maybe we'll have to break it a few times. Stephen usually goads us into applauding at some point. But we honor generations of... I'd like to also take time to acknowledge the native people who claimed this land as home before European colonization. And we honor generations of their care and stewardship with this land and with all the other beings that share the land. And we honor our relationship with our Shinnecock neighbors in their continued struggles for sovereignty and justice. For our Zoom visitors, I believe you can find the order of service pasted in the chat, courtesy of Carl Wittenberg. It's in my script if you want to look for it, but never mind. You don't really need it. You will find printed announcements in your order of service or the link in your chat. Are there any spoken announcements that we need to hear today? I guess not. And we don't have any visitors. So please take a moment now to greet your neighbor if you haven't done that already. And we'll come back to order in a moment.
We start with, we offer him the opportunity to gather us, right? Yeah, we'll do that.
Yeah.
We'll do that now.
But you can
Okay.
do that. You can do it after this.
Okay, yeah, let's do it right now.
Most of the deeds I've done really doesn't matter the prizes I may have won. I like for somebody to say I've tried to love someone when I have to leave my day. In the crawl for justice, I help somebody run. In the walk for the hungry, I fed someone. In the march for peace, tell them I play the drum. If I have to meet my day. For justice, I help somebody run. In the walk for the hungry, I fed someone. In the march for peace, till I might play the drum. When I have to meet my day.
So I always say when you have a musician like Stephen, it doesn't really matter whether you preach at all. You know, you've already had your fill of spiritual nurture. That's great. Thank you, Steve. Look forward to more music here. Call to worship are some words about questing from a book called Spiritual Literacy. Throughout history, people looking for spiritual renewal have undertaken pilgrimages to sacred sites. Once in a lifetime, Muslims are under the obligation to journey to Mecca. They set out with high hopes for the quickening of their faith. For many of us, the inward quest is equally important. Trappist monk Thomas Merton writes, as Kent noted, our real journey in life is interior. It is a matter of growth, deepening, and an ever greater surrender to the creative action of love and grace in our hearts. I invite you to join with me in our chalice lighting words in your gray hymnal number 429, words of former UUA President Bill Schultz, number 429 in the gray hymnal. And Kent, do you want to light the chalice as we say these words together? Come into this place of peace and let its silence heal your spirit. Come into this place of memory and let its history warm your soul. Come into this place of prophecy and power, and let its vision change your heart. I invite you now to join together in singing hymn number 295, also in the gray hymnal. Sing out praises for the journey, and as you are willing and able, invite you to stand as we sing this together. Please be seated. Our story today is entitled The Monster in the Well. It's reputed to be by Rumi, the Persian poet, and it is an intriguing commentary on home. A caravan of men and camels crossed a desert and reached a place where they expected to find water. Instead, they found only a hole going deep into the earth. They lowered their bucket after bucket into the hole, but the rope each time came back empty. No bucket, no water. Then they began to lower men into the hole, but the men too disappeared off the end of the rope. This is very alarming. Finally, a wise man among the party volunteered to go down into the hole in search of water. When the wise man reached the bottom of the hole, he found himself face to face with a horrible monster. The wise man thought to himself, I can't hope to escape from this place, but I can at least remain aware of everything I am experiencing. The monster said to him, I will let you go, only if you answer my question. He answered, ask your question. The monster said, where is the best place to be? Where is the best place to be? The wise man thought to himself, I don't want to hurt his feelings. If I name some beautiful city, he may think I'm disparaging his hometown. Or maybe this hole is the place he thinks is best. So to the monster he said, the best place to be is wherever you feel at home, even if it's a hole in the ground. The monster said, you are so wise that I will not only let you go, but I will also free the foolish men who came down before you, and I will release the water in this well. End of story. Let's join together in singing Spirit of Life. Number 123 in your gray hymnals. 123. Stand as you're able. Please be seated. We begin our meditation this morning with a prayer. This morning we pray for all those across the globe who are on the move, for refugees fleeing violence, poverty, and hunger where they once lived in relative peace, for immigrants seeking a better life for themselves and their families in the face of economic dislocation and climate disasters, for travelers visiting distant lands to expand their understanding of widely divergent cultures, for people marginalized by others, afraid for their health and life, seeking safe sanctuary. And finally, for pilgrims, called to visit special places where momentous events occurred, where forebears performed amazing feats that they continue to recall and want to celebrate. Be with all these diverse travelers. Keep them safe. Grant them courage and stamina. May they find helpful companions along the way, and rewarding insights and fulfillment, and a sense of being home when they reach their destination. This we pray to the Spirit that fills us all with aspiration and hope and inspires us with holy restlessness. So may it always be. Shalom. Amen. Our responsive reading for this morning is number 645 in the Gray Hymnal, 645, Song of the Open Road by Walt Whitman. Let's read this responsively. I'll read the Roman type and you read the italic. Afoot and light-hearted, I take to the open road, healthy, free, the world before me.
Henceforth I ask not good fortune. I myself am good fortune. Strong and content, I travel the open road.
I inhale great draughts of space. The east and the west are mine, the north and the south are mine.
All seem beautiful to me. I can repeat over to men and women, you have done such a good to me. I will do the same to you.
Whoever you are, come travel with me. However sweet these laid-up stores, however convenient this dwelling, we cannot remain here.
However sheltered this fort, and however calm these waters, we must not anchor here.
Together, the inducements shall be greater. We will sail pathless and wild seas.
We will go where winds blow, waves dash, and the Yankee clipper speeds by under full sail.
Forward, after the great companions, and to belong to them, they too are on the road.
Onward to that which is endless, as it was beginning us, to undergo much, tramps of days, rests of nights.
To see nothing anywhere but you may reach it and pass it. To look up or down no road, but it stretches and waits for you.
To know the universe itself as a road, as many roads, as roads for traveling souls. This is the time in our service where we have the opportunity to share a joy, a sorrow, or a milestone with this community. Please come to the mic with whatever you want to share. State your name and be brief. And for those folks on Zoom, if you would like to share, please raise your hand or indicate in the chat to Carl that you have something to say. I lit that one last candle for all our unspoken joys and concerns. We know that not all of our joys and concerns are shared here on Sunday, so our Care and Connection team works to stay in touch with those in our community who need something a little extra, perhaps a visit, a phone call, a meal, or a ride. If there is somebody in need, please reach out to Pam. I know she's on the team, and not sure who. Oh, and John is too. Great. Those folks will be happy to help meet your needs. And certainly Reverend Kimberly is available as well. All right, we'll move on to our offering. We received 2 collections here. The basket that is passed will hold your gifts for the work that sustains this congregation and meeting house. And the basket in the back goes to our Helping Hand Fund, which supports the congregation's work beyond these walls, and also to the Helping Hand Fund, which assists people in need through the minister's discretionary fund. And Stephen will play some music for us.
Thanks again, Stephen. That was awesome. Well, next month I travel to Oregon for my 60th high school reunion. It's a little scary event. Hard to believe it's been that long since I studied Canterbury Tales in Miss Casterline's senior English class. That was, I think, my first introduction to pilgrimage, although someone, Myrna was reminding me this morning that, or someone was reminding me that Wizard of Oz is actually a pilgrimage film. And I had seen The Wizard of Oz as a little boy, but I didn't put it together with pilgrimage. Somehow the Canterbury Tales in high school, we didn't have any choice but put it together with pilgrimage. Motley assortment of pilgrims walking to Canterbury, telling stories along the way. While studying for the ministry at Harvard Divinity School, I took a course called Pilgrimages, a thematic introduction to religion. We compared pilgrim experiences across a very wide swath of human traditions. The Huichol people of Mexico, Moses and Jesus in the Bible, John Bunyan's The Pilgrim's Progress, the Hajj to Mecca, Hindu pilgrims traveling to Benares, Buddhist pilgrims in Japan, even our own Henry David Thoreau musing himself on saunterings. It seems to be a nearly universal human experience to want to go on pilgrimage. What makes a trip a pilgrimage? It has something to do with the mindset you bring to the trip. your openness to what you're experiencing along the way, and your awareness of how these experiences might change you. A pilgrimage is a trip that you suspect or maybe even hope will blow your mind and alter the way you look at the world. Pilgrims usually head out to visit very particular places. These pilgrimage places are special. Important events involving significant people happened there. As time went by, people wanted to be sure to remember those people and those events. Not remember in some vague, general way, but remember actively, with gratitude, with enthusiasm, with stories, with rituals. Pilgrimage might be described as embodied remembering. Embodied remembering. As pilgrims, we bring our whole selves to remember and celebrate those who came before. I've taken a few pilgrimage journeys during my 7 decades. As a lifelong fan of Frank Lloyd Wright, the 20th century architect, I long wanted to see his masterpiece, Falling Water, in Pennsylvania. Have any of you been there to see Falling Water? It's quite astounding. When General Assembly was in Pittsburgh, I seized the opportunity. I visited more, I would say, as a disciple than a tourist. I looked with eyes of admiration and wonder, and something close to love. I was amazed at the creative vision that Wright brought to this site, which it's a house built right on a river. I was amazed how he was able to translate that vision into concrete and bricks, texture and color. I walked through the rooms, the doorways, the corridors, the outdoor paths, delighting in the different views of the rooms, the patios, the rushing river, the surrounding forest. I experienced the sublime. I immortalized the experience by making a photo of the house, the wallpaper, on my cell phone. So I look at that perpetually now. Then, 2 years ago, I joined a stalwart band of Unitarian Universalists to visit the region of southern Poland, where our Unitarian forebears established a flourishing Unitarian community between 1565 and 1658, a long time ago. They called themselves the Polish Brethren, and they decidedly charted a different course in religion from the Orthodox traditions of their day. They advocated separation of church and state, equality and brotherhood of all people, refusal to enter into military service, a great degree of tolerance of other religious traditions and other sects and traditions. Some members of our group were from Transylvania, others from Poland, and the rest from the United States. As we stood in the abandoned worship houses of the Polish Brethren, our European colleagues sang old Unitarian hymns, and we offered prayer to these spiritual ancestors who blazed a trail for our modern Unitarianism. Standing in these holy places, you could feel the power of their bold ideas and brave lives surging through the ancient walls and stirring in the air. More recently, I've been thinking even more about pilgrimage since I joined the board of the Living Legacy Project, also called the Living Legacy Pilgrimage. This came into being in 2008, when a few people who had joined a bus trip to civil rights sites in the South insisted that the original leader, Reverend Gordon Gibson, continue to lead bus trips that he'd started informally when pressured by members of his UU congregation in Elkhart, Indiana, to show them the places and retell the stories he'd been preaching about for years. For you see, Gordon was an eyewitness to the 1965 Selma to Montgomery March for voting rights. The UUA had sent him there early in the 60s to see if there might be some role for UUs to play in the growing civil rights movement in the American South. Over 40 years later, several of the women on the bus realized these stories and places should not be forgotten. That what happened in Selma and Montgomery and Birmingham and Memphis and the Mississippi Delta shaped what this nation was in 1940s, 50s, and 60s, and what it has become since. To forget the people and events that took place 40 years ago would be to remain ignorant about a watershed period in our national history. As philosopher George Santayana observed, those who cannot remember the past are condemned to repeat it. So the Living Legacy Project conducts bus tours of places in Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Georgia, the Carolinas, and calls these bus trips Living Legacy Pilgrimages. Why that name? To then answer that, let me briefly describe for you this morning my experience as a pilgrim to Alabama last October. We flew from New York to Birmingham. 48 of us from all over the country gathered in a hotel conference room. Each one of us knew something about the civil rights movement's events in Alabama. Rosa Parks' refusal to move to the back of the bus, the Montgomery bus boycott, Martin Luther King's leadership, Bloody Sunday in Selma, the murders of UU minister James Reeb and UU laywoman Viola Liuzzo, the Selma to Montgomery March. It's one thing to hear stories about these events, or see news reports or documentaries. It's quite another thing to stand in the spot where Rosa Parks boarded the bus, to stand in Martin Luther King's kitchen where he received spiritual assurance that he was on the right track, to walk across the Edmund Pettus Bridge where John Lewis and so many others were attacked by state troopers, to walk up the steps of the Alabama State Capitol building where the march ended, to be physically present in these places and to listen to eyewitnesses or children of witnesses tell us accounts of their lived experience. We also visited newer museums and monuments. The one that moved me to the core was the National Memorial for Peace and Justice, conceived by lawyer, author, and advocate Brian Stevenson. In this monument, you enter on a path past a cluster of statues of enslaved people. You walk up a hill to a huge open structure from which large rusted rectangular pillars are suspended from the roof. Each represents a county in the South, and on each pillar are cut out the names and dates of people who were killed by lynching in that county between 1877 and 1950. There are 805 pillars containing the names of more than 4,400 people. The path takes you on an incline and around two corners and down so that the pillars are suspended over your head. You can't help but feel the weight, the magnitude, the depth of the loss of those lives on your body as you follow the path. On the wall is written the following: for the hanged and beaten, for the shot, drowned, and burned, for the tortured, tormented, and terrorized, for those abandoned by the rule of law. We will remember with hope, because hopelessness is the enemy of justice, with courage, because peace requires bravery, with persistence, because justice is a constant struggle, with faith, because we shall overcome. grief, sorrow, anger are unavoidable. This is part of the pilgrim's experience. Events and people from the past aren't just meaningless ideas or vague memories. They grab us in our bodies. They seize our hearts. They move us to tears and to a deeper empathy. We aren't bystanders to history. We're directly, personally involved. We aren't a passive audience. We're actors. On the Living Legacy pilgrimage, I rediscovered a number of important aspects of what it means to be a pilgrim. Like tourists, pilgrims bring open minds to their visits, but they also bring open hearts to the possibility that they will feel something profound. Pilgrims are open to new insights, to deeper understanding, to deeper empathy. Pilgrims harbor hopes that their destination will change them in some meaningful way. Pilgrims travel to a specific destination because they have felt called to do so, by history, by tradition, by family, by close friends. Pilgrims often prepare for the journey not only by packing suitcases and backpacks, but also by practicing active imagination about what might be encountered and experienced. Pilgrims savor the sights along the way, but also anticipate fulfilling some hope once they reach their final destination. And in many cases, arriving at the final destination feels like us coming home. I wanted to share with you this vignette from my pilgrimage to Alabama to invite you to dig deeper into your own experience as pilgrims. For in a way, each Sunday, we come to this meeting house as pilgrims. We come with open minds and hearts, longing to be touched with inspiration. As pilgrims, we owe a debt of gratitude to all our forebears in faith and many unnamed others. In coming together today, we reflect on their living legacies to us and recommit ourselves to the values that they championed in their lives over the past decades and centuries. In the case of Unitarian Universalism, freedom of conscience, commitment to building institutions like this church, generosity, persistent work to translate our vision into reality, disseminating Unitarian and Universalist ideas, freedom for all people, living our principles, helping one another, recognizing that all of us have a part to play in ministry, a commitment to work both locally and globally, advocating for wider social inclusion, practicing personal commitment and faithfulness. There is much of which we as UU pilgrims can be proud in our past. There is much to celebrate in the lives of our ordinary, extraordinary spiritual forebears. There is much to emulate in the values and principles they held sacred, and there's much to build on and carry forward into the future of our faith. A pilgrimage has been described as a transformative journey to a sacred center. This congregation is such a place, made sacred by the example and sacrifice of Unitarians and Universalists who have gone before. It is my hope that by making the journey here once again, you are helping meet the hunger of your spirits for meaning. Through this weekly pilgrimage, we remind ourselves that we belong to a great tradition, that we stand in a long line of Unitarian and Universalist pioneers and prophets who invite us to do in our own time what they did in theirs. We are one with all who have gone before. So, pilgrims here in Bridgehampton today, on behalf of all our forebears in faith, I say, with deep feeling, welcome home. So may it always be. Shalom. Blessed be, inshallah. Aho Shanti. Amen. And in this spirit, I invite you to join together in singing the Fire of Commitment, hymn number 1028, not 1027, 1028 in the teal book. That's the sort of bluish one. 1028, the fire of commitment. As you're willing and able, I invite you to stand as we sing this together. invite you to join me in our benediction. You'll find those words at number 700 in the gray hymnal. 700 words by Robert Mabry Doss. Number 700. And let's say these words together. For all who see God, may God go with you. For all who embrace life, may life return your affection. For all who seek a right path, may a way be found, and the courage to take it step by step.
Please join us after the service for refreshments in the fellowship area. And Stephen will provide us with the final song after we read the words to extinguish the chalice, which are in your order of service. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of wisdom, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Please remain seated.
Yeah, test. Yep. Well, I started out down a dirty road. Started out all alone, and the sun went down as I crossed the hill. The town lit up and the world got still. Yeah, I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got wings. Coming down is the hardest thing. Well, the good old days may not return, and the rocks might melt, and the sea may burn, but I'm learning to fly, but ain't got wings. Coming down is the hardest thing. Some say life will beat you down, break your heart, and steal your crown. So I started out for God knows where. Guess I'll know I'm learning to fly around the clouds. What goes up must come down. Yeah, I'm learning to fly, but I ain't got wings. Coming down is the hardest thing. Learning to fly, learning to fly, learning to fly. Thank you.